So we are now moving to the next step of our day. So the next session is titled A Human-Centered Future of Work with and for Youth. As it was mentioned this morning, nothing about young people without young people, nothing for young people without young people. So I would like to respectfully introduce Mr. Sung-Hoon Lee, who is the Director of the Employment Policy Department at the ILO, who will lead this session. You have the floor, sir.
Thank you so much. Um, I'm Sang-Hoon Lee. I'm younger than you think. I can prove it if you want. And the session, this session will be basically about a bit of a new task, new challenges. We talk a lot about sort of unfinished business. So we have still lots of challenges, lots of issues to tackle at the moment. But the situation is there are more to come. And as you know, there are a huge debate on the future work. There is some whole series of structural changes which are taking place, which affects the world of work. In response to that, as many of you, the ILO set up the Global Commission on the Future Work. They actually launched the report last January, I'm sorry. The actual report basically the calling for human-centered agenda. In there, they actually made very specific recommendations, 3 specific recommendations. The first one is investing more and better in the people's capabilities. Second is on the investment in the institution of work. Number 3 is in the institution, the investing in the sustainable and decent jobs. So in terms of the way forward, in kind of how to actually further develop our policy responses to these challenges, I can see 2 important gaps here. Number 1 is we need more innovative and better idea about our policy responses. The second is we have to build, strengthen probably the voices of the people. And this actually, the voice deficit is particularly strong when it comes to young people. So in a sense, we have very 2 actual challenges. How can we develop our policy responses better, and how we can strengthen the voices. From previous discussion, it was very clear the rights and voices are important enablers of the sustainable solutions to address the youth employment challenges, now and also in the future. So in this respect, this panel will discuss 2 important issues. One is what are the structural changes in the labor market at the moment, in the world of work, and how they affect the young people in particular. The second is what is the role of the rights and voices in advancing on human-centered youth employment agenda. This is a huge task, I know, but I'm lucky enough to have excellent panel to address these questions. And so I have in the panel, I have Pedro Robledo sitting on my right side from Argentina. I don't need to introduce Pedro. He's very well known already. And also the Biljana Georgieva Vueva from Nestle, sitting next to me. And also the Jacqueline Wamai from the Kenya. And the Nikata Sanamula, the next. And then last but not least, actually Diana Samini, sorry for actually pronouncing your name not very well, from the WHO. So I'm going to organize the session? Very simple. I have 3 rounds of sessions. The discussion first, I'm going to ask very specific questions to each of the panelists, and I'll giving them very strict 3 minutes. So young people love discipline and rules. And so the 3 minutes is their rights for voices. And then I turn to you for any questions. probably I'm going to collect 4 questions, and then I turn to the my panelists for responses, about 2 minutes, and then I'm going to have the last round of questions to each of the panelists again, what the global initiative should do in addressing all the questions we are going to discuss in this session. Hopefully this is okay. Okay, let's start. So Pedro, because you are sitting over there, so you are a victim of the my first question. So I just mentioned some of the structural changes in the world of work. So how do you see these changes and how they affect the world of work, especially young people?
Okay, so good morning. First of all, I would like to tell you a short story. When I was in the 7th grade, my history teacher, Monica, explained to us the meaning of the word idiot. It came from the ancient Greek and literally means those who are not interested in public matters. So I would like to thank you to everybody who is in this auditorium because we care and we matter. I believe that regarding structural trends, and I would like to explain or to put in the table two things that for me are key for structural trends in job. I believe that if we want decent jobs, first we need decent ways to tell people, young people, that they matter. And how we are going to face this problem if they can get a degree in the university, if they can't pay a master degree, if they can go to the university. So I truly believe that the educational system must be changed now. We need a system that allows young people to enter in the universities around the world. For example, in my country, in Argentina, we have a public system that allows most of the people to finish their careers in their universities. Because if we want to give them the opportunity to get a decent job, first we need them to finish their careers at the universities. And also, regarding the education system, for example, in Latin America, 1 per 2 young people get out of high school. They are not finishing high school. So what we are going to do with these people that are not having the opportunity to finish and to get their high school degree, and then of course they don't have the opportunity to enter in the university system. And secondly, I would like to take one second point, because I think that we need to change the loop when we talk about job opportunities. I think that economic growth without social growth is not growth at all. And I think that we are going to face a big problem in the coming years that we are facing nowadays. The 80% of the GDP worldwide is produced in the 5% of the territory. This is affirmed by the United Nations. 900 million of people are living in poor areas without any conditions to live. But in 30 years, this number will be 2 billion. So I think that housing will be a problem to allow young people to find decent jobs. How we are going to fix these structural problems? Because most of the people are moving to urban areas, but then the cities rise up the prices of housing and they have to live 2 hours away from hometowns and companies. So I know that I have to finish. I think that this and housing will be a structural problem to develop a policy for decent jobs, and I think that we have a solution between the private and the public sector. We need to encourage and we need to enhance green bonds and social bonds between the public and the private sector. We need the private sector, we need the most important international funds investing in these things like housing, because this is not just a government issue. This is a humanity issue that we need to face now.
Wonderful, thank you. I think Pedro highlighted two key points: education and also the very nature of the economic growth. So then I'm now turn to Nikita. You're from the European Youth Forum. I understand that you published a very interesting report on the future of work and youth, I believe. So you heard Pedro. So what is your view on all these structure changes and the impact of those, especially for young people?
Yeah, firstly, I want to say that often when we talk about the future of work, we tend to only focus on digitalization. But this is only one of the future challenges that young people will face. And we at the European Youth Forum feel that it's impossible to adequately protect the rights of young people without looking at the impacts of other megatrends. So for that reason, in this report, we looked at the impacts of technological advancements, but also of climate change, of demographic changes, and globalization in Europe. And based on that, we identified 5 key challenges for youth. So one is obviously skills. One example is that young people are often assumed to be digital natives, but this is really a myth that fails to reflect the fact that not all young people have the means to access technology. And in fact, in a survey that was conducted in 8 different countries across the world, only 18% of young people said they had the skills, they felt they had the skills necessary to thrive in the digital economy. The second challenge relates, of course, to access to social protection, and this is already a challenge for young people today. 44% of young people in the EU are in temporary forms of work, and the current social model doesn't appropriately cover them. If the growth of the informal sector continues, as we have seen with the flourishing of the gig economy in Europe, these challenges will only persist. The third relates to workers' rights and well-being. Very few countries currently have the necessary arrangements that enable carers to remain in employment while preserving their work-life balance. So how will young workers, especially young women, as we've heard earlier, manage to keep that work-life balance and to stay in employment when they will bear increasing care responsibilities for the aging population in Europe? Technology is also blurring the line between work and private time, and this is particularly a concern for young people who are at greater risk of constant connectivity, which can contribute substantially to mental health issues, absenteeism, and burnout. The fourth is environmental concerns, because we rarely talk about the impact of climate change on the future of work, and yet 1 billion jobs depend directly on a healthy and stable environment. And finally, the future of work also brings concerns about equality. The digital divide, for example, risks exacerbating the gap between the rich and the poor, men and women, as young men tend to be more confident in their digital skills than young women, and also regional divisions, such as we already see in Europe today. So these impacts are quite substantial, but we must not see them as foregone conclusions, because ultimately it is policies that shape our labor markets. Therefore, there's still time for policymakers to shape the future of work into one that is youth inclusive and that protects their rights, but they have to start today.
Thank you so much. The architecture broadened actually the perspective a little bit, including the climate changes and the demographic changes and others, and actually highlighted some important challenges in terms of job security, non-standard forms of employment, and informal work, as a work and life balance, and more importantly, on inequality. I think that's a very important contribution. So now let me turn to the private sector, Nestle, the Bilanya. I recently been to Nestle, and then I was invited to a nice lunch, and I learned a lot about lots of good ideas and a bit of the new policies or actions the Nestle is thinking of. So how is Nestle leveraging the rights and voices of young people to ensure world work today and also tomorrow brings new opportunities for young people? So probably your experience will be very useful in that respect.
Thank you, Sanjo. So, good day, everyone, and I'm really honored to be here with you today. And I would also like to take the opportunity to wish happy centenary to the ILO. Let's not forget that this is the organization that brought the weekend to us, so I'm sure you can do much more for us in the future and for the generations to come. So for Nestle, I would say that it all starts with our purpose, which is enhancing the quality of life and contributing to a healthier future. And what we mean here, it's a healthier future for individuals and their families, but also for the communities at large and for the planet. And in order to bring this purpose to life, we have identified our Nestle Youth Initiative, which I believe that you know a lot about, and I will mention a few words as one of our main pillars, because our strong belief is that our communities can only thrive if we can offer a future for the next generations to come. So therefore, we are very determined to help young people to develop the skills that they need for their future jobs and to find jobs, but also to create their own businesses. And this would help us, create communities which are thriving, which are resilient, but also are very inclusive and much more peaceful. And of course, in this way, we see also our contribution to the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. So a little bit about our Nestle Needs Youth Initiative. So it started in 2013 in Europe when the youth employment was a major issue across the old continent. And then very quickly it gained traction to all the countries in Europe and achieved really huge results in terms of hiring new people and providing training and apprenticeships opportunities. Now what we see that the issue is not so much with the quantity of opportunities, now it comes more to the quality, and we spoke a lot about precarious work, temporary work, and how it is with all these challenges. But also as a challenge we see the preparedness of young people to take these new opportunities which will come. I'm sure you have heard that more than 60% of the children which start school today will have jobs that will not exist at the time they enter the workforce. And also there is an issue with providing the right working conditions for these opportunities. So in 2017 we evolved the Nestle Needs Youth Initiative into a global one. So covering practically most of the countries around the globe, and we have taken up a very bold ambition, and this is to provide economical opportunities for more than 10 million young people across the world by 2030. So we would like to create these opportunities in three areas which we find very important: employment and employability, entrepreneurship, and agripreneurship. So these are the main areas on which we are focused. Then also, as we discussed a lot in the beginning, we cannot solve this challenge alone, so we are very much open to partnerships, and that's why last year we formed the Global Alliance for Youth, which is an organization of like-minded business entities who have really the goal of providing equal opportunities for young people. So our key main areas with which we would like to start are to work on developing the digital skills of young people, developing the soft skill, also working on STEM skills, and apart from that, advocating for dual education. Yes, sorry for that. So with this, I can say that we firmly believe that the leaders of today should provide opportunities for the young people of tomorrow and give them not only opportunities but also platforms where their voices can be heard and their rights can be respected. So with this, yes, I can share many more examples maybe during the break. And yeah, with this I would like to conclude and thank you very much.
This is a good example. Yes. We have to take action before being too late. Yes, so I think that's so. But we heard the very interesting private sector initiative, especially Global Alliance for Youth, actually initiated by the Nestle. So I think there are lots of things actually the private sector can do more and better. Now I turn to a bit of the workers' organizations, and as you know, there are lots of things to be done from their side as well. And Jacqueline is from the Kenyan Union of Domestic and Hotels and Education Institution and Hospital Workers. As you can imagine, this is a growing workforce. That is where actually jobs are really growing in many parts of the world. And I know Jacqueline, you has done a lot of innovative the actions and also innovative trying to develop some innovative models of the organizing workers and also the putting forward some important agenda in your country. So I very much want to hear from you about your experience in that respect. Jacqueline.
I would have said Jambo, and I don't know how you would have responded. So Jambo.
Jambo.
Ah, okay. So there are so many challenges that are facing workers, and as Nikita has highlighted, I'm just going to add on three. This has caused some structural factors, and one is labor flexibility, the second one is deregulation, and also the third one is the shift from the manufacturing sector to now the service sector, which I'm kind of coming from that background. So there has been so much reflections by trade unions or workers' organizations concerning young workers and their representation. And it's not as easy as it sounds or as people try to imagine. So recruiting these workers, organizing them, and also representing them, offering a foundation or a place where they can be in a position to now reflect their voices has become very challenging. So trade unions have been aggressively trying to represent their issues, and some of the questions that trade unions have been asking or young workers have been asking in the trade union is trying to organize them or engaging the youths, not only from the formal workplaces as we know it, but also from the informal workplaces. Because nowadays we are having more youths in the gig economy. We are having more youths probably in the informal sector. We are having more youths who are working from home. And these are questions that that trade unions have been asking themselves, especially on the renewal or rejuvenation of, of trade unions. And also the protection of young workers. How can we protect them when they are transiting from school to the workplace? And also in between there's what we call the internship or apprenticeship. So, and also the third one is about how trade unions can represent these workers who have non-standard form of employment, because we've seen a lot of outsourcing, we've seen more of seasonal employment, we've seen part-time work, and basically the non-standard form of employment. And also trade unions have been reflecting on what kind of strategies that can be adapted. And the fourth one is how trade unions can create identity inside and outside the trade union. Because you would feel that at times you hear that that young people are not attracted to trade unions. So what is this identity that that trade unions is supposed to reflect to young workers? And also representing the unemployed people, the unemployed youth, not people, but the unemployed young workers. So how can we ensure that their voices are also heard? Because these are especially in sub-Saharan Africa, we are having more young people outside employment, and they are being pushed so much into the periphery. So they are not in the informal sector, they are not in the formal sector, they are actually unemployed, and they don't have anything to do, yet they have a lot of skills, they have a lot of innovative ideas. So these are some of the questions that, that trade unions have been reflecting on. And maybe later on, I'm going to share maybe some of the innovative ideas. But these key areas have been an issue, and trade unions have used the same to come up with innovative ideas. And we've seen different trade unions, for example, Unite Here. It's a trade union that organizes the workers from the hospitality sector. We've seen that despite the dwindling membership, we've seen that actually Unite Here has seen an increase of membership, and especially with young workers. And this has been caused about with some of the issues that I've highlighted here.
Thank you so much. I think now I'm turning to the Dia, and I'm going to ask you a tough task. We have heard already from youth groups and the business and the trade unions about the potentials or challenges of the creating decent job, and especially how to leverage rights and voices of the young people. And also we heard these actually social and health sectors has a lot of potentials of creating a decent job in the future, as highlighted by the ILO Global Commission report on the future work. And you are basically looking at the health and social sector for many years. That's part of your mandate. So we see a lot of potential, especially for young people and women. So what would be your suggestion in terms of leveraging this actual rights and the voice lands in this sector?
Okay, so thank you for the very tough questions. I will try to answer, give my best to answer that. So the idea of breaking the structural barriers or this, and you asked this as a very nice point, the key aspects that we have to take into consideration when we address this issue is, one is that in order to break any structural barrier, I think institutionalization is key. So it is up to us how to include and ensure sustainable platform is in place to include young people or youth that are, one, left behind, and two, who are change makers. How can we ensure that both are included in this element? The third one is to provide a way of how we can ensure that this platform provides way to have intergenerational transfer of knowledge, not only dialogue. So we are talking about how the older generation, and me included, can transfer the knowledge and the years of experience into the young people. This is in light of sustainability. And vice versa, how young people can influence and modernize the way of thinking and engage the older generation. So intergenerational is the third aspect. The fourth is how we can ensure that in the end we have provided youth with meaningful and decent jobs and opportunities, so they can have real experience, meaningful jobs, and really do have them, give them the chance to succeed meaningfully. So in WHO, when to highlight this a bit, we have the Health Workforce Department, in which there is the Youth Hub for Global Health Workforce set up already to address the issue of young people in the health workforce. Here in this Youth Hub, the students and young professional organizations are the main driver of this Youth Hub. They are part of the steering committee, they run the Youth Hub, and of course they produce a report for future and present and future health and social care workers, where in this report they highlighted a very important points. One is that by 2030, there will be 40 million jobs in health and social sectors. And two, that inclusion and meaningful and decent jobs for youth must address the gender transformative and youth responsive policymaking. So those are the two main asks. If we want to create decent job in particular in social and health sectors, then we will have to address this gender transformative. It has to be gender transformative and youth responsive. This is especially important because, as was discussed earlier, young women are in particular disadvantage of if we do not have a gender transformative approach. So I would like to close by highlighting what is WHO doing to address that. One is that we ensure that youth from different elements and different interests are included in our approach. One is that we have the regional town hall mechanism now being set up. There will be 6 town halls between the period of 6 years, 1 year, that will generate 6 regional youth engagement strategy. Decent jobs will be included in these strategies. Another one is we would like to engage youth directly. So those who are not part of big organizations, who are individuals making change in their communities and in their national settings, to be engaged directly with WHO and to provide solutions on what they think public health challenges must address. We will have the first youth hackathon in August, and then we would also like to engage youth who are perhaps already active or not yet active as national delegations in their country through Model WHA, which will happen in the last quarter of this year. So it is part of an overall system-wide change and transformation in the organization, and youth is very much included in it and part of it. They are driving the change. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I think Dia has actually handled the tough task very well. Now open the discussion to the floor, and so if there are any questions and suggestions, and I'm happy to collect the four of them. So as you have seen, the panelists have been very disciplined in terms of making very concise, short intervention. I hope that there will be the same for the audience from the floor as well. Yeah, please.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Gabriel Cerver. I come from Argentina, same as Pedro, as Florencia here. And Pedro, a quick question for you in regards to your comments about the education. And I work in the private sector, and I wanted to ask you, how do you see the connection between the private sector and how can we help enable the continuous education of young people so they can have jobs, but yet also continue with their education trajectory?
Okay.
Good morning. My name's Peter Shiris. I'm from the International Youth Foundation. I had a comment for Nikita and your comments on the future of work. It seems to me that the future of work, in a sense, is a misnomer because these are current trends we're dealing with, not just trends in the future. And also, it's not just the amorphous quality of work, it's actually current trends facing workers. So I think to actually talk about it in human terms around workers is important. My comment and question, I totally agree with what you said about digital skills, but it seems to me that equally important are the soft skills that the colleague from Nestle raised: critical thinking, teamwork, communication, gender, respect for diversity. These are the skills that will become even more important, are important today, and will become even more important in the future. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions? Oh, yeah.
Hello, I'm Alessandra from CGIL, Italian Trade Union. And even in Europe, where there's a strong labor law tradition, we can see that young people, and especially young workers, are one of the most fragile categories because they are paid less, because they are more and more in temporary jobs and in the gig economy. So do you think that collective bargaining and social dialogue could represent a good solution to address the challenges that we've seen?
And there's one more. Can you pass the mic?
Hello, my name is Adriana Chakăru. I'm coming from the National Confederation of Free Trade Unions in Romania and representing here ETC Youth Committee. I also have a question from for the colleague from Nestle. You said that you are open to new partners. Have you considered taking into account the trade unions and also at which level? Meaning company level, sectoral level, so on and so forth. Thank you.
So you'll be surprised, I can still accommodate a couple more questions. Yes, please, in the middle. And, yeah, please.
Working now? Okay. My name is Joanne, and I'm here representing the UN Major Group for Children and Youth. And I hear a lot of discussion about entrepreneurs, youth entrepreneurs, and hackathons. But I wanted to also hear the ways that we can move youth businesses or youth enterprises from small local businesses into broader markets, as well as for hackathons, how we expand beyond the days of the hackathon to make more meaningful social enterprises or just commercial results from youth entrepreneurs.
Thank you. Now I am going to turn to my panelists. So, Pedro, do you want to start first? Okay, Pedro.
Okay, so first of all, I would like to say that my background has been during the last decade in public policy. Nowadays, I'm the executive director of the National Institute of Youth in the country, and I have been working in social issues. And I truly believe that we need to bridge the gap between the public and the private sector, believing that we are two separate worlds. And here in this auditorium, we have different examples of people that I really know that they are from the private sector and they are working very hard to helping the public sector, for example, in the education system. Nestlé is one of our main allies in Argentina, and also Microsoft there in the back. And I believe that the thing that we are facing regarding education is that, for example, in my country, 1 per 2 young people, they left high school and they don't finish high school. And we have discovered an initiative that is called in Argentina, in Spanish, we call it in Argentina, Your Compromise Transform. And in the United States, it's known as My Brother's Keeper, was an initiative by President Obama, in which private companies allow employees to give to different sectors in poor areas, and 2 hours per 15 days to mentoring young people in different areas. Because what we have learned, and I'm continue learning about this situation, is that it's not only a thing of that we need them to finish high school, for example, for people that are living in low-income communities. The thing is that they ask to us, why should I finish high school? You are saying that if I finish high school, I will find a job? Then they will ask me for university. They will ask me for the degree. They will ask me for the master. They will ask me for the PhD. And the thing is that they don't believe that sometimes high school will allow them to achieve what they need and what they want. And what we have learned during these 3 years working with private companies in different areas of the country is that when they see someone from a company helping them to build their project of life, they start to understand why they have to finish high school. That, for me, is one of the most important things. And I think that, for example, CEOs from companies, we need them in the public discussion. We need them in the discussion with unions, not only discussing salaries, discussing what we are teaching. And in that discussion, we need the CEOs from companies saying in the public and in the public sphere, in the media, that, for example, I think that in Latin America and in my country, we are teaching in high schools and in primary schools and more focusing in the public sector. We are not teaching the young people the skills that the private companies are asking for us. So I think that that's one of the most important things. We need them in the public discussion. We need them with the government, within the government, discussing with the different actors that we have in this discussion.
Okay, Pedro already raised good points about the business, so that he made a very good segue to your comments. So, Bilal.
I hope you hear me better now. So I would also take the opportunity to come back to the questions in terms of how much we are open to cooperate with unions on these important topics. So first of all, let me say that when we speak about creating platforms and opportunities for young people, for us also what is very important and what is very much true for Nestlé is that, you know, we acknowledge the challenges of the gig economy and the advancement of technology and all this, but at the same time, we make sure that the young people who join us, be it as their first job or as an apprenticeship opportunity, that they benefit from the same working conditions as all our employees. So in this regards, we don't differentiate at all. And maybe also we are one of the few companies who provides for paid apprenticeships all across the globe. So for me, this is an important factor in terms of ensuring that we are providing decent work for our young people. So in terms of, you know, listening to them and recognizing their rights and voices, we also have many opportunities in place. So I will just mention a few examples. In most of our markets, we would have youth networks where people would connect and will create their own groups of interest linked to LGBTI rights or disabilities or gender balance, whatever it might be. And you know, they are very often given the opportunity to present to the management and have the opportunities to have their ideas heard. Also in some markets like Italy, for example, we have the reverse mentoring where young people have also the opportunity to mentor leaders from the older generations and share their insights with them. So with this, I would move to the question of how open we are to cooperate with trade unions. So at Nestlé, at global level, we are working very closely together with the International Union of Food Workers, which is representing most of the unions which exist in our different markets. So with them, we have a regular dialogue. And we make sure that we are always listening to each other, no matter what the topic might be. So around a year ago, when for the first time I met the new Secretary General, Sue Longley, I asked her, okay, what are your main priorities? And then she mentioned youth employment. So guess what? It's the same for us. So in this regards, you know, I would like to say that we are very much open to this type of collaboration. We would like very much to move away from issues management and gradually move to proactive building of partnerships with the unions included at global level, at local level. So for us, honestly, this topic of youth employment is something that is very beneficial for starting this type of dialogue.
Thank you, Bilal. So Bilal already made a good comments on the collaborations between the companies and the trade unions. So Jacqueline, what do you think?
I'm going to respond to the question about collective bargaining agreement and how relevant it is, especially with the changes that we are seeing in the world of work. So social dialogue has never been important than now. And as we say, the future is now and the future is now. And social dialogue has been and will always be one of the answers to workers' problem. So I want to insist that the relevance of labor standards or any kind of labor laws is as important as it was, even with increased precarity or increased informal sector. So the challenges that workers are facing or young people are facing can be addressed through social dialogue between the employers and the workers' organization. So we've had very good examples where trade unions continue to organize even the I'll say quote unquote the unorganized the unorganized workers. So we have an example of trade unions which, from my country, the informal workers, the hawkers, the small traders that have been organized, even the platform economy where I don't know if anyone knows the border borders or how do I call them, the motorbike, the one that you use, have been organized even informally. Even if they have not joined the association, they continue to raise their voices, and they are usually in contact with even the county government. So we've had very good examples where not necessarily collective bargaining agreements in the strict sense of it, but social dialogue and collective agreements that have been reached between maybe governments and associations and the workers themselves. So I don't think that we can say that that collective bargaining agreements are not going to be relevant. But what I can say is that collective bargaining agreements are even more important even as we speak today. And in Kenya, for instance, we are having the domestic workers sector is very big, and that's the union that I'm coming from. And we don't have a national collective bargaining agreement, but what we have the General Wages Council, which determines the wages and the conditions of work of domestic workers. And from the Council of Domestic Workers, we've been in a position even to negotiate some terms and conditions. So I think at the end of it, if trade unions continue having innovative ideas on how to bring these workers who are either invisible or they are becoming even more precarious from permanent work to now the non-standard forms of employment, we can get them into trade unions and represented through the trade unions, and we can still continue having the relevance of collective bargaining agreements with the changes of employment relationships.
Thank you. Nikita, you have also a specific question dedicated to you.
Yes, first of all, thank you so much for your question. I think it's a very important point. And actually, that's something that we talk about in our report as well. The importance of those soft skills, the skills that gives humans a comparative advantage over computers and new kinds of technology that are coming out. But also, as an organization, we believe in the importance of critical thinking, media literacy, and all of these that are really big issues when we think about the rise of fake news, for example, and the link to technology as well within those. And also, I would say we talk about in the report the need to invest in what I call green skills, which is basically skills related to climate adaptability and sustainable production, for example. I think these are very important. And within that framework, we see the role that non-formal education, so youth organizations, for example, can play in delivering those skills, particularly to young people who are harder to reach in more formal education environments. Just a quick comment in relation to the role of private sector in shaping the education system. We as an organization do see the importance of governments consulting with businesses on these issues. However, the young people that we represent do not want the private sector to have a very significant role in that respect, because at the end of the day, education is a human right, and education is not just about finding a job at the end, but it is about citizenship. It's about developing the skills that you need, life skills, essentially. So that's also important to remember as well. Thank you.
Thank you. So, Dia, please.
Yes, thank you. I would like to make a quick address to the hackathon issue. So the hackathon that we will host, we look forward to have it beyond providing solutions that will include IT or digital solution. We also look to have solutions that are process solutions, process-oriented perhaps, and very simple solutions that can be implemented to address public health challenges. These challenges that we will try to solve during the hackathon came up from the young people themselves. We hosted one workshop where they define it, and then we will have young people also give the proposed ideas to solve these public health challenges. One important element in this hackathon is that we hope that it can be a platform to host other sectors beyond health. And this is where people in digital health and also in young people who are entrepreneurs, social entrepreneurs can come and then team up with other groups within the overall youth population that will come. So we hope that this is, one is a platform for exchange and breaking into new network, and also to provide the solutions that can be implemented based on the winners later on. Those solutions will right away be matched in with the either departments within WHO or other agencies that think that solution can be implemented. So we look to have a sustainable solutions implemented and then review by next year. So we see that it goes beyond only the 3 days of the hackathon. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So I got now about 8 minutes, I guess. So I try to wrap up by asking one common question to all the panelists, which is we discussed, I mean, until now, it is very, very important to involve the young youth in the decision-making process, especially on the policies. At the end of the day, whatever policy we're making, whatever policy we are going to introduce, they will affect the young people more than others. But the question is how? So there is some discussion already. So I just ask all the panelists, what is your advice or suggestions on how we can more effectively involve the young people in this key decision-making process, and how actually this global initiative on decision work for youth can support those actual actions. So these are two important questions, but unfortunately you have 90 seconds to respond to it. So I only wish you best of luck, but okay. But I'll turn the sequence a little bit. I'm going to ask the Jacqueline first, and then Bilana, and then going to Nikita, and then Pedro, and the Dia. That's it. Okay, Jacqueline.
I hope that I'll make it in 90 seconds. Okay, one. I'm going to highlight maybe some 4 innovative ideas that can be used or can be used between employers and employees collaboration. But one, I'm going to talk about innovative ways on how trade unions can continue incorporating the issues of workers, of young workers, and also in reviewing of policies. So one, I'm going to mention that ACTRAV has commissioned a review of policies and action for the integration of youth in trade unions, and this is a global survey. And there are some different issues that will be raised in the global survey. And one will be on policy, what are the policy actions, and how to raise participation for youth in trade union, and also the key areas of intervention and what kind of participation and benefits and extent of commitments to address the challenges of future of work, and many more. So maybe you can look out for that global survey. Maybe it will be out by July. And also, there's a need to establish social networking forums and to reach more youths. And also, there's a need of having an online consultation forum, because we see that more young workers are having so many questions, but they don't really know how to address or where to go to. So when you establish an online consultation forum, young workers can be in a position to pose their questions about their contract, maybe when they are transiting from maybe universities or colleges to world of work, and even during the internship, and what kind of labor rights they should be knowing beforehand, and how even to highlight the issue about employment, employer and employee relationship, and also the issue about collaboration between maybe universities and trade unions. And because when you look at young workers or young people are usually maybe in universities or colleges. So there can be a collaboration between universities or education institutions and trade unions on how to incorporate some of these basic rights, labor rights taught even in school, or even organize events that not only entertains young workers, because young workers or young people need to be entertained, but also to address pertinent issues that affect them in their daily lives. And also, maybe the last one is supporting internships, because we have a lot of unpaid internship. We have where you need job experience, maybe at times 10 years job experience. Most of the jobs you have like a 10 years experience. So we need the support, not only for by the workers' organization, but also the government and also the employers, on ensuring how to support these young to-be workers when they are transiting from school to the labor market. And maybe my last, my 90 seconds are over. So work is key to economic and social development. So we need more job opportunities, and we need to create decent work for these young workers. So I'm really looking forward for more collaboration in these areas. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Jacqueline. I felt the 90 seconds is quite long, but that's my perception, I guess. But okay, the Billion.
Okay, I will try to be very short. So for me, youth means future, and vice versa. So my advice to the Global Initiative for Youth is, to take into account all the considerations which are coming from the developments related to future of work, and also to secure the share of voice to young people and make sure that they are there and they are given the opportunity to create their own future, because it's for them, it's not for us. Thank you.
Short and powerful. Yeah. Going. Ask Nikita, you speak first, and then the Pedro.
Okay, so, I mean, first and foremost, I think we must all stop seeing young people as simply beneficiaries and really start seeing them as right holders. And that means becoming equal stakeholders in discussions in relation to youth employment. And that means engaging young people and youth organization in the design, the implementation, the monitoring, and the evaluation of all programs and policies that are aimed at tackling youth unemployment. Because no one is better placed to tell us what young people need than young people themselves. And I think we also need the greater integration of young people's voices in the workplace. So, for example, some companies have work councils, and if they have a lot of young workers, then having specific positions within those work councils for young representatives. But that means employers creating the environment where that is possible. And also the greater inclusion of young people in trade unions, as we've heard. I'm going to finish off by being a little bit cheeky and saying that if you want to know more about our ideas of solutions to the challenges that I've raised in relation to young people in the future of work, to check out our report, which is available on our website, youthforum.org. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Pedro?
Okay, so I would like to say that, of course, I've been working in politics, and I truly believe that it's the best way to change reality. As Plato said, and when you discuss politics, you are changing your current times. And I truly believe that I have heard a lot of times in many summits that we need to hear the voice of youth, and we need to put them in the discussion, and we need them to be a key actor. The thing is that when you want a revolution, you have to make noise. There's no revolution in silence. And I would like to encourage all the youth that are in the summit that you need to discuss power. Power is the best thing to transform. We need to discuss power with the unions, we need to discuss power with this international organization, and we don't have to be only spectators. We need to run. We need to run, and we need to defend our ideas, as for example, Ocasio-Cortez in New York City. We need to get involved and try to change the system within the system. And I think that nowadays, we are having simple answers to complex problems. Regarding the family changes, we are hearing around the world accusations against the LGBTIQ movements. Regarding unemployment, we have people accusing immigrants. Regarding environment, climate change, we have people saying that this is fake news. So we need young people looking for complex solutions to complex problems, and we have to discuss, and we have to get involved in those places where power is discussed. Of course, it's not easy at all, and I would like to just one moment to say that, for example, in my case, getting involved in politics is very difficult, and you have a lot of challenges to face every day. But it's the best way to transform reality. And regarding the education, and I truly believe that, of course, education is a human right, and you need to build citizenship with education. But we have the opportunity to do that. We are in Rome with all this and all the things discussing, and we can talk about citizenship. But if we don't give in the education system the right tools to survive, the young people from income societies will have the opportunity to discuss citizenship. So I truly believe, and I will keep advocating for the key alliance between the public and the private sector as the key path to transform reality. And I would like to say that we need more young people in Congress, we need more people sitting by presidents, and we don't have only to attend summits to discuss ideas. We need to discuss the power. It's nice to have power. It's beautiful to have power to transform. And it's the best way. And we don't have to have these things separate, you know, like here the people discussing the ideas for change reality, but then sometimes we don't have the opportunity to go in the Congress to discuss the reality.
Thank you. Sophia?
I hope I can still have my 90 seconds. I think to provide an end to the comments, I would like to convey that perhaps our discussion today is actually trying to determine the link between SDG 4, SDG 8, and SDG 3 from my perspective as WHO. We are trying to define where decent jobs, especially in this case social and health workers, fit in to this whole plight, the global plight to achieve the SDGs, which is not simple at all. It is a very, very complex endeavor. However, we know somehow that the only answer perhaps is to bring these aspirations and bring this interlinkage between goals and targets in the SDGs into real actions on the ground, at the country level, in the communities, down to the last group, the smallest one that you can find. And who can be the best advocates and the best action troops to do this are the young people. So SDGs are designed and implemented for the next generations, but the young people in this current generation hold the power to make that change. Concretely for WHO, we are now in collaboration with 12 other international organizations in the Global Action Plan on Health and Well-being. And we would like to encourage everyone to look at that Global Action Plan and see where youth groups and other stakeholders in the global development fora to take actions. Which part is your action? Because it is an action plan, and an action plan will remain an action plan without real action. So young or old will have no barriers and no boundaries in this case. Let's do that together on the ground and make changes in real people's lives. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you so much. I think this panel actually brought together, as you can see, business and labor and youth group and the international organizations. I think the message, as far as I can see, is very clear and strong and sometimes quite loud as well. So my only hope is that these very powerful messages will be picked up in the next sessions and also the after and also tomorrow, and then eventually reflect on the when we actually wrap up all the findings of this conference tomorrow. So we are already 10 minutes past, past already, almost 10 minutes. I'm sorry about this, but it was very, very helpful and exciting, the event. Please join me, give a big hand to our excellent panelists. Thank you.